Already we've done the apology about the glitches that happened earlier on. You are more than welcome in this Ad-Hoc joint committee on flood, disaster relief and recovery, where we are supposed to deal with the adoption of the final report. It's not a meeting that is meant to take us long, except that we are not going to just do it for the sake of ticking the box, but we're going to be able to do what is expected in this meeting. Let me also welcome and acknowledge my co-chair, Honorable Frolik. It's also part of this meeting, and all your good self, honorable members, and the staff that has been part of the journey since we have started this important task that has been given to us by Parliament. Let me allow you, Nola and colleagues, to deal with quickly apologies that we have.
Good morning again, Chairperson, and apologies yet again for the technical glitches that transpired earlier on. There are no apologies that are registered on my side. I think all the honorable members are on the platform. It's just that Honorable Soma had written on the group earlier on that she was still attending the programming meeting, but I saw her on the queue to come into the meeting, so I think she's probably joined in by now. Chair, while we're at that, I would like to just bring to the attention of the honorable members that the report that we are about to table before the committee comprises of the changes that were made, because you'd remember, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members, that the committee met in October sometime to consider the report, and there were changes that were proposed by honorable members. There are other changes that were also proposed later on thereafter, and between the 25th and the 27th of October this year, the co-chairpersons, myself and Mr. Sokoman, who's the lead content advisor in the portfolio, went to KZN. We were attending the Council for Geoscience Summit. So the co-chairpersons then felt that we should also do spot visits, that is surprise oversight visits, in terms of follow-up in KZN in 3 sites. That is one, the N2 road, also the Mount View shelter and Umdloti site, the 3 sites that the committee had previously visited. So what we did was to go and gather more information on those sites, because the committee could also not do a full follow-up visit on those sites. But all that information has then been culminated into the final report, Honorable Chairperson. I thought I should highlight that. And also, after that meeting, after the October meeting, where the committee was also considering the report, it was recommended, or it was rather resolved, that we should contact the provinces to request progress reports. So the KZN province and the Eastern Cape actually did submit the progress reports in terms of the flood. So that's what is embedded into the report that the committee will be considering and adopting today. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Nola. I will allow Mr. Sokoman is not necessarily presenting the
recording
report,
in progress,
but it's an issue of dealing with issues that were not part when the draft was presented the last time we met in October, and also those additions. Strictly focusing on that. I know that the report has been sent to all the members. They've gone through it now. It's an issue of us dealing with pen and beating it and adopting it. And of course, we indicated that we're not going to hide anything. And the report, it's more of a reflection of the tireless effort of the commitment of all members since we started this journey. Mr. Sokomane.
Thank you, Co-Chairperson. I hope the report is visible on the screen.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Good morning to you and the other co-chairs, as well as members and colleagues. So I'll just run through the additions that are highlighted in yellow. So the first one is on page 3, and there we indicate that the figures are relevant as at 12 August 2022. This is important, particularly because last afternoon, yesterday, the House passed the amended Division of Revenue Bill, which basically proposed additional allocations for the April 2022 disaster. And then the next amendment is on page 11. So at the bottom of the page there, so there we highlight the issue of the matrix, which was raised in the previous meeting, just to clarify that the matrix was actually appended to the presentation by the DPME. And then the next page, page 12, we clarify the figures there as suggested to us by Honorable Sheikh. We just removed the extra zeros that were a bit confusing. And then the next page is on page 26. So page 26, so there basically we capture the inputs, the follow-up input from the provincial government of the Eastern Cape. Basically, the message there is that the provincial government has not really moved much in terms of addressing the aftermath of the disaster, because their main argument is that they were not able to amass enough resources to address the flood damages. And then the next page, page 31, there we make a minor correction as suggested to us by Honorable Lesoma last time, just to, as you can see there. And then the next page is on page 33. There we highlight the issue of the engineering report, geotechnical reports in the Northwest, as Honorable Lesoma also emphasized during the previous meeting. And then on page 37, at the bottom of the page there, again, we reflect, as Nola had indicated, the fact that the co-chairs conducted an unannounced visit to Umdloti, where it was found that the progress that was previously observed by the committee has been sustained. The next page is on page 40. Page 40, we also reflect the co-chair's unannounced visit to the Adams Road, where it was found that the work had not yet commenced since the committee's last visit in August. The only thing we saw there was the erection of concrete barriers along the side of the road, but everything else remained the same. And then on the next page, page 40, yeah, page 41, yes. There we reflect the fact that the co-chairpersons again did an unannounced visit to the Mount View Community Hall Shelter, whereby it was found that the conditions had actually worsened compared to the last time the committee visited there. The officials were last seen at the time when the committee was there, but afterwards they were not seen again. So there's no food that is being provided to the people. That has stopped. And in fact, the government, provincial government, had not fulfilled its promise of moving the people out of the shelter by the end of October, as they had promised to the committee. So there are still remaining about 158 adults and an unspecified number of children in the shelter. And then on page 44, in the observations, as highlighted in the previous engagement of the committee, we just thought that we should also emphasize again the issue of the lack of agency in the response to the disaster, as suggested to us. And then on the next page, page 45, we reflect the co-chair's observations regarding the conditions in the Mount View Shelter Community Hall in eThekwini. And then on page 46, we just capture the issue there of the delays in responding quickly to the disaster, as members had suggested previously. And then we also highlight the issue of a special dispensation for national disaster situations, so that the legislative instruments could be relaxed to take into account that a disaster has been declared. And then the next issue that we highlight, as suggested to us in the previous meeting, is the issue of the lack of interdepartmental coordination amongst the spheres of government and also amongst the departments themselves. And then on page 48, on page 48, it was in the previous meeting, it was emphasized that we should highlight the issue of the 1 billion that was announced. So we expand on that there. And then on page 49, the next page, we capture the recommendations by the committee in relation to the National Disaster Management Center and what it needs to do to respond better during times of national disaster. On the same page, at the bottom and on top of page 50, we highlight the recommendations by the committee to the effect that the MFMA, the PFMA, and the Disaster Management Act should be reviewed. At least certain provisions of this legislation should be reviewed in terms of disaster, so as to ease the release of funds, so that there is a quickened response to the state of disaster. And then on page 51, we include recommendations there to the effect that the committee should follow up with the provincial government of KZN on their promise to move out the occupants of the Mount View Community Shelter. But in view of the fact that this is possibly the last sitting of the committee, perhaps this should be a matter of referral to the portfolio and select committees on human settlements. And then on page 52, we just add the, right at the top of the page, we add recommendations from the previous sitting of the committee to the effect that the NCOP should consider establishing a steering committee on climate change. The Council for Geoscience should be looking at working on better relations with municipalities that are disaster prone, as well as the departments of human settlements at national and provincial level. And then lastly, the issue of the climate change bill that is being processed by Parliament should be drawing lessons from the experience of the floods in the country. And then the last issue relates to the geotechnical reports, as suggested by Honorable Lesoma in the previous meeting, that this should be referred to the portfolio and select committees on environment, forestry, and fisheries to follow up. So basically, these are the additional amendments to the report as proposed by the committee. Thank you very much, Co-Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sokomane. Thanks very much for simplifying the edition in the report. Honorable members, it is what it is. We've had ample time then. We decided to add the issues as you see. The report is very clear about the recommendations and the issue of referral. I'll start with Honorable Lesoma.
Good morning, Honorable Co-Chairs and Honorable colleagues and Honorable members. Chair, let's welcome the editions of the report, noting that we did have time in terms of engaging with the report previously. And secondly, let's also welcome and thank your good self Co-Chairs and your team for doing an unannounced visit instead of relying on written submissions that we would ordinarily receive from various stakeholders. Thirdly, let's also, Chair, with a sincere appreciation for the technical team, with all the good work that they've done since this establishment, because some of us might not be debating, so we might not get this opportunity to us even in presenting the reports and listen us that information, but they've been very team that we respect, that makes government tick. Chair, in terms of the recommendations, because I need to support what I'm going to recommend, that they are good. They say what needs to be said, and I think we did what we have done, but we are disappointed just for noting that there's nothing up till today. There are still people staying in the halls, and some roads that are still blocked and all that. And I'm sure that when we present the report before our both houses, we will employ the responsible oversight bodies in terms of the select and the portfolio committees to ensure that they do their best, noting that the revision of revenue, the money that has been allocated for disaster, it has to be spent, and the oversight bodies, they must make sure that they follow up through to its logical conclusion. And also the other one is the issue of the legislation reform in terms of ensuring that disaster as disaster must talk to in terms of us as government responding to disaster, which says that we must respond with speed and must be seen responding with speed on that one. And we are aware that other committees or people were expecting us to bring change, but there are relevant departments that must be ensuring that, even the entities. And it's quite unfortunate that there's nothing that we can bring home to say, yes, we have made a change. Other than that, we have learned a lot, and Parliament, in terms of its oversight and how it does its business, it will not be the same like yesterday. And of course, which will be my question in terms of that road that you visited at the north on your oversight, on your announced oversight, Chair. Was that the one that was also repaired by the private sector, or what was it? Was it done by us or the province or the Sandran? Other than that, I will recommend that we accept the report for due processes to both houses. And we, from our side, we are fine. Thank you very much. Speaking for myself, not the collective, but I normally use we. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Lesoma. Honorable Browdenseth, followed by Honorable Tutoy.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Chairperson, I'm generally happy with the report, but there are some issues that I'm not happy with. But I just want to place them on record. I understand if it's too late to change the report now. So on record, I just want to put there, I think it's unfortunate that the report does not reflect on the response of eThekwini in terms of the weather warnings that were issued before the storm, particularly after the fact, Chairperson, that the Western Cape Disaster Management Centre had picked up the storm on the South African Weather Service and had issued an offer to the city of eThekwini to assist. And that offer was ignored. They could have had search and rescue teams on the ground. This was their information that they gave to myself. They could have had the teams on the ground there in the weekend before the disaster actually hit. In conjunction with that, Chairperson, I think it's very unfortunate that although there was initially an agreement to visit the Western Cape Disaster Management Centre and to get their input, we did not do that. And as I say, that particular centre was more than willing to welcome us and to give us their input on a non-partisan basis, just on a purely technical basis. It's unfortunate, and I just think that the report should state that there was a severe failure by the eThekwini government in notifying the residents of the severity of the storm and what they should do to avoid the storm. And the protocols in the South African Weather Service are quite clear on a level 9 warning. And unfortunately, the city failed in that regard. The other issue I wanted to raise, Chairperson, is the N2 at Adams Road. I'm very glad that you and the Honourable Froelich went and did an unannounced visit there. I don't know whether you want to include it in the report, but just to let the committee know that I've been in ongoing communication with SANRAL, and I was very disturbed to receive a response from them last week in which they said that due to a bungling of the procurement processes, which I can get into with you personally, Chairperson, but effectively they issued a closed tender and then that was a failure and they had to issue an open tender. That work is only going to begin on that site in January 2023 and is anticipated to be finished in March 2023, which means that if they stick to that deadline, but they've missed about 4 or 5 deadlines, Chairperson, and as you saw, you were there very recently and nothing's happened, then that means it'll be about 11 months since the floods for that section of road to be repaired. So, Chairperson, I don't know if you want to include that updated detail. I can raise it in the debates. But anyway, that's the state of affairs there directly from SANRAL, and I'm happy to forward you that letter from SANRAL. Chairperson, those are just the issues I wanted to raise. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Proudence. No, let us not worry about what they are committing much, except issues that they've raised with us, because already we know what they said. They said people will be out of, as an example, they'll be out of the shelters by the end of October. Now it's almost December. People are still there, and probably even next year they will still be there. Honourable Dutoy will be followed by Honourable Hlengwa and Honourable Tuli. Honourable Dutoy.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, I presented the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill to the Northwest Legislature yesterday, and that additional 111 million was added to the road infrastructure to repair the damage on the roads on that side. But what then was mentioned by the legislature in the committee is that they are going to contact with National Treasury to try and apply to get consent or permission to utilize that 54.9 million rand that was made available for the temporary housing that was never constructed, to use it in that specific area. I think it's just important for the committee to make note of that. Up to now, no temporary structures have been erected in that Deelpan area, as far as my knowledge goes, and the reprioritization of those funds will apparently be applied for. Thank you, Chair.
Now, the report is also saying exactly that, Honourable Dutoy, that nothing has been done when it comes to that part of the province. Honourable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, chairpersons, and good morning, colleagues, and to the Secretariat. Chair, it's just one observation. Maybe let me start off by thanking the team for a job well done in piecing everything together to land us at this point, which is largely a very comprehensive report. Chair, just one observation. we are referring quite a number of things to this committee and that committee. And I think this in itself may present a problem for sustaining what was a good idea by both houses of parliament on this matter. And I'm not sure whether we can ask for our own extension, simply because I think there are issues that we have observed which we may want to bring to a logical conclusion ourselves. And somehow, for lack of a better phrase. So I don't know if it's something as the co-chairs you can think about and engage the powers that be. Otherwise, it may lose its momentum in large part, and we are taking it to spaces where they'll have to refamiliarize themselves with the issues and so on. So I've just been grappling with that particular aspect as to whether the idea in itself of the Ad-Hoc committee was brilliant, because it enabled cross-cutting oversight and engagements and so on. So I'm just putting it to you as the chairs, think about it, look at them, and see. But let's not lose the momentum, because the colleagues here are au fait with the issues, from different vantage points. And also maybe chairs to find this, there's a number of outstanding matters. The shelters, the reconstructions. I stay on the South Coast. There at Umgababa, I can tell you there's very little movement. In Amanzimtoti, there is little movement. If you go to up the north on the N2 Mvoti, same. And the list is endless of where these things are not done. So it's just one area, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Hlengwa. We'll seriously consider the concrete proposal you have made in terms of making sure that we don't lose the momentum. My co-chair will come in towards the end. Honorable iPhone Lutuli.
I was waiting for that, Chairperson, that you will call me an iPhone. But thank you so much, and greetings to everyone. I think Honorable Hlengwa have said exactly what I wanted to say, Chairperson. And also, umuntu akabonge ancome ukuthi the co-chairs did announce visits, because I've been praying for that. Ukuthi as this committee, fanele sike senze ama visits ungazi muntu, because every time mabe si announce ukuthi we are going, they will do something ube sengathi khonto eyenzakalayo lokho okuncane. But it's very sad that we have started this and people have hope ukuthi khona into ebizokwenzeka, only to find ukuthi we are leaving it ingaphelele. And if iya kwelinye committee now kuzofanele bayiqale phansi bayijwayeze. So I would love to second what Honorable Hlengwa just said, i-proposal yakhe. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Tuli. Honorable Mbulelo. Who's Honorable Mbulelo?
Mbulelo Ngubaha. My name is Mbulelo, Chairperson.
Honorable Baha. Honorable Baha.
No, thank you, Chairperson. Without taking much time, one, I mean, we are in KZN, as you know, and I think that in terms of what people, when we interacted with the public in our sessions, key issues and fundamental health hazards that people had indicated, shortage of water and so on, in where we are in KZN as a result of the floods, people crying about houses, human settlements, and so on, which means that I think we are still where we were, even though there will be progress in small areas. So, Chair, without taking much time, I think that for me, is for the co-chairs to take this up, either with the president or whoever, to kind of get the extension as Honorable Hlengwa has suggested. So I'm also for that view, President Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Baha. colleagues, as for us, given the responsibility to co-chair this, it was indeed a real eye-opener. We are so grateful for the level of commitment and dedication we saw from members, irrespective of political affiliation, and the manner in which you were more than prepared to go beyond your normal extra working hours, even if it comes to doing some necessary applications to different parties, to take some days that are meant for political parties to attend, and sometimes taking weekends, making sure that you take this work serious. And now, after the move of the adoption has been done and seconded by colleagues, and of course, there is a rider that is dealing with some of the issues. I think we have a different way of making sure that we don't lose the momentum. Before I can go to my co-chair, I'll allow Honorable Pratense for the only afterthought.
Chairperson, yes. Chairperson, it's just a logistical issue. I was just wondering, has a date been set yet for the debate of this report? Are we going to be doing it this year or next year, do you think? Just would like to know that. Thank you, Chairperson.
No, don't worry. The co-chair will deal with that way forward when it's getting in. I was indicating that there are some serious lessons out of how we have worked as this Ad-Hoc committee, and of course we have learned a lot of things, and for us to put it as is without necessarily justifying where there are some serious gaps, and you can see that the progress, truth be told, it's very minimal, and we're still of the view that much more still need to be done, and at the rate at which we are going, and if there's no other necessary intervention to make sure that, as indicated by Honorable Hlengwa, we check up the process and we don't allow it to lose the momentum, is going to create problems. And it's part of what Honorable Baha is also reflecting, that as the flagship program of Parliament is taking members to that part of South Africa, and part of the issues that are coming out strongly, it's the very same issues that we're dealing with. Allow me now to give my co-chair to give his input and deal with the detailed way forward and his comments. Honorable co-chair, Honorable Frolik.
Morning, good morning, co-chairperson, and good morning also to the honorable members. And thank you for the staff who has prepared the report. Your work and dedication has not gone unnoticed. There's just a few issues I want to reflect on, chairperson. And the one is, and I want to start with that, is the call that has been made by some of the members for the mandate in terms of the reporting and delivering a final report of this committee is concerned. I suggest that the members take this to their chief whips of the different political parties, so that the chief whips in the chief whips forum, in the NA as well as in the NCOP, can discuss the matter so that they can read the political agreement on it. The nature of an ad hoc committee is that it has a very specific time frame and a very specific mandate, and it happens that an ad hoc committee refer matters to other committees or even institutions for further work that needs to be done. So that is not unprecedented. It happens regularly. Also, we must be aware that it was never the intention of the ad hoc committee to take over the work of all the other different line function committees in both the NCOP and the National Assembly. However, I also want to say that the advantage that the ad hoc committee, of course, have is that it can work across the different government silos. You are not restricted in dealing only with one particular issue. So that is the distinct advantage that we have now, basically a populated matrix of what needed to be done and what hasn't been done. So that is the advantage, and the members are very, very much involved and aware of where the shortcomings is. But we will also discuss the matter, Honorable Chairperson, outside of this meeting, and we will then speak to the powers that be to convey the sentiment. I have not heard any counter view to convey the sentiment that there's still outstanding work that needs to be done. Secondly, Chairperson, in terms of this report, there is reference, of course, to the Mount View shelter, and I want to agree with the drafter of the report that that is a matter that the PC Human Settlement must attend to. In the absence of having an extension for the work of this committee to continue. I've also seen in the report under water and sanitation a remark that was made by the Honorable Lesoma about the Tongaat water treatment works and work that was to be completed by the 5th or 6th of November, which is a couple of weeks ago. And that, I'm not sure what the current status quo of that is. I've also heard about the issues around Adams Road and what Sanral is saying and what is going to happen in timeframes. But let us be clear, Chairperson and honorable members. We sit with a situation where these type of commitments and timeframes are given to us, but it is not honored by those who give it. Whether it is the political heads of the different departments, national, provincial, and local government, or the agencies that are supposed to do that. So I take it with a pinch of salt, all type of deadlines and timeframes that's being put there, that we cannot go on hearsay from certain departments and entities such as Sanral, that this is what they are going to do. They're not very good at keeping their word and honoring the commitments that they have made. Chairperson, I've checked my records. We never agreed. There was a proposal from the Honorable Broughton Sith to visit the Western Cape Disaster Center. There was never an agreement that we will go there. For the record, I want to put it straight and frank. There was never such an agreement. Our mandate is clearly to deal with the disaster that happened in those 3 provinces, and that is why we were engaging with the National Disaster Center. That is an attachment to report to COCTA. So there was no agreement that we're going to the Western Cape Disaster Center. We can rely on reports that we receive from the National Disaster Center. And the National Disaster Center did not report what we are being told that what the Western Cape has been saying. I also want to say, Chairperson, that in terms of one of the proposals around the NCOP to consider a climate change steering committee similar to the NA, the wording needs to be corrected there, because that is not correct. There's no steering committee operating in the NA yet. We cannot operate because the resolution that was passed by the House in the National Assembly said it's a joint steering committee, which means that the NCOP must first also adopt the resolution, and then we can continue with our work that needs to be done. So that matter, I understand, was in front of the Chief Whips Forum of the National Assembly yesterday, where there were discussions where the NCOP is making certain proposals in terms of their representation on that joint steering committee. And I think it will be dealt with, but we just need to correct the wording. It may create the unfortunate impression that the NA went ahead and is working on its own as a joint steering committee. That is certainly not the case. And I will assist the drafter after this meeting with the corrected wording for that to be inserted into the report. Chairperson, I must also indicate that the committee did work in 3 provinces. It's Eastern Cape, Northwest, and KwaZulu-Natal. This was not a committee for eThekwini only. In KwaZulu-Natal, we went to the north and we went to the south as well. And although most of the damage have occurred from eThekwini and spreading towards those rural areas, we must be consistent that the committee considered the mandate that was given to it in terms of the oversight work that needs to be done. We understand that there will be members who are from some of these areas who want certain issues to be amplified but we must always keep the mandate of the committee into account. And sometimes the members who are living in these areas have an advantage in that they get information because they are there. That is their constituency work, that is what they're doing. But we cannot only focus on one area in the province. We need to be consistent and cut across all the work that needs to be done. With that being said, Chairperson, I must finally register my great disappointment with the lack of urgency as it is recorded in the report from national departments, provinces, as well as local government. You reached the point where the local government was looking at the provincial government. The provincial government looked at the national government. And they reported that there's no answers forthcoming. And what was declared as by the president as being a national disaster in those three provinces, certainly the reaction that we get from both the politicians as well as the administrators and functionaries was not at that same level as that was expected. And that is why we're still sitting with unfulfilled commitments and deadlines that simply has not been met. This is not the way in which the people expect government to respond during a state of a national disaster. Yes, there's a lot of lessons to be learned, but I must also add, it's not the first time that we had major flooding and disasters occurring in some of the very same provinces. I'm reminded of the Eastern Cape, where there were tornadoes and other things. And that is why you found that when the provinces came, they tried to include those areas that was previously affected by disasters for assistance, because quite frankly, nothing was done in those areas. And that is a great disappointment to see that the response is so poor and inconsistent. One of the departments that definitely stood out in terms of driving the process was the Department of Public Enterprises. And I want to formally put on record the sterling work that was done by Minister Pravin Gordhan, who took a personal interest when we visited Durban Harbour to get the officials there on time, for the officials to give us specific deadlines, and those deadlines were met. And that is how you should respond when the president of the country declares a national disaster. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Co-Chair, Honorable Frolik. Colleagues, it is what it is. We have the report that we've duly adopted with the necessary additions that has happened today. And of course, issues raised today, we are going to engage with the co-chair outside this forum, but it doesn't take away the issue of raising it with the chief whip and of the different houses and entire whippery about some of the concrete proposal that were made today, so that we can see to finish what we've started. But otherwise, from one side, not unless there's any other issue that might have been created after all these inputs from the honorable members. Honorable Lesoma.
Chair, my apologies to do this. I'm not too sure. I might have
Your line.
missed what the co-chair was saying. So from now,
your line is bad.
Going to be 80 seat. Still, I've got a problem. If there's a problem, then I'll discuss with the coach. It loud here. Thanks. If then you can't hear me.
No, now we are fine. We can hear you now.
No, I'm. My apology for that. I don't know why I'm apologizing, but I have to apologize that I was not audible. I was saying that, which means now, as from now, the report will be 80 seat. as per the conclusion, and then I'll assume that the co-chairs will also, in particular the NAH, the powers may be in terms of scheduling this report before the House arises. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mashiko. Honorable Mashiko. Oh, no, it's a unmute and talk, Honorable Mashiko.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Chair. You see, this technology is not part of me. I'm naive on it. So, Chair, thanks. And I just wanted to add on the view by the co-chair, Honorable Frolic, that in order for us to meet the commitment that we want to achieve, avoid extending our area of target. For instance, the 3 provinces were given to us. Let's stick to them. I remember at some point there was a smuggling in of Northern Cape, and today there is a smuggling in of Western Cape. Once we do that, we might not necessarily meet our targets. Let's stick to that particular time frame. It will help us. But and you'll remember, the last meeting I did propose what we are now saying, and I wanted to just add that indeed we must not end it in November as a time frame, but we must see to it that our project is finalized, and I think you will succeed in asking for permission to extend. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mashiko. Honorable Prudence.
Yes, Chairperson, I'm not sure if I missed Honourable Frolic. He was going to respond to the query about the possible debate, and I understand that it needs to be ATC'd. I was just trying to get an idea from Honourable Frolic as to whether what the likelihood was of the debate being this year or next year. I just want to get an idea of that, Chairperson. Obviously, it's an important debate, and I think members would like to make sure that they've made the necessary arrangements, because lots of other parliamentary duties and constituency duties tend to compete for our time. So I was just trying to get an idea of the likelihood of when it might be. I understand that a specific date is not possible at all, but just an idea. That's all, Chairperson.
No, the issue of the debate, it's desirable. It was going to be a very good thing to have a joint sitting as and when this thing was discussed, when the president called a joint sitting. But given the challenges of the workload that the 2 different houses is faced with, it might be a challenge. But after the ATC, what we'll do outside this meeting, we'll try to see to it that probably in one day, even if we'll do it in different houses, after the ATC, we can have a same day in the different houses presenting the report. Definitely, it will be before the end of this year, Honorable Broughton said. Not unless there's any other thing that might be missing. I'll allow my co-chair to add. Honorable co-chair Frolic.
No, thank you, Honorable Nyambi. No, my apologies, Honorable Broughton said I forgot to speak to that. May I indicate that for us, it's a matter of urgency, of course. You see, we must also take this thing serious enough that we get the report in front of both houses. And I can give you the assurance that we will endeavor. The NA programming whip is here on the platform to get this report in front of those 2 houses as soon as possible. And that's why the adoption is taking place. The proposed adoption is taking place today, because we're going to face as MPs, ultimately co-chairperson, who went there, also a credibility crisis. Once having gone there, and we report on these things that nothing has happened, so the community will fry, so what next? What is going to happen next? And we need to bring this on top of the agenda once again, because the sense that we got also when we did the unannounced visit, it's almost as if government and the public representatives and political parties have now forgotten about us. This is now our own problem. And we must change that narrative, Honorable Chairperson, so that we can put and prioritize the needs of the people that was affected and is still affected by the national disaster that occurred. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair, for being elaborate that part. And as we indicated that some of the issues, especially the issue of making sure that we attend to something that will make it possible that we don't lose the momentum, as correctly explained by Honorable Hlengwa. And we made that commitment that outside this arrangement, we will engage with the co-chair and of course take it with the different leadership of both houses so that we don't end up suffering from what has been raised by the co-chair, the credibility issue, because it will be with us in no time if we're going to make it just another talk show or ticking the box. As for one, it will be in order now to indicate that working with people when given task, they understand the importance of that task. It's a really a fulfilling exercise, and even now we know that members are committed in different engagements, and when you saw that the task that has been given to you is not yet done, and we decided to have this meeting. And as for the support, it was, I mean, it's still out of this world. The level of commitment, despite the minor glitches today, that is why it's simple for us to understand, because they've never failed us, and as and when we go wherever, you'll always come and assist. We don't take that for granted, colleagues, and we say bravo to you for the job well done. And I will still appeal to those that might have just gone to look at the observations and the recommendations to read the report. It's our report, and Honorable Co-Chair and colleagues, maybe part of what they can even compile that can be available to members is to get the detail of the pictures, the videos that might be a reminder to others as and when they are going through the report to understand what we have done and what can assist us moving forward. And we're still seized with this until we've done the reporting and we've dealt with the part that is to be attended outside this meeting. Let me allow you, Co-Chair, Honorable Frolik, working with you. It's always something that one looks for every day because it's a fulfilling exercise. Let me allow you to do your concluding remarks.
No, thank you, Co-Chairperson. You know, and I've switched off my video now because the connection is dipping. We are actually chairing this meeting from Sharm el-Sheikh at COP27, but we thought the importance of doing so for the people of the country. Thank you very much for the cooperation. There was never politics involved in this thing, and political parties in this committee rose to the occasion that even if there was any hint that the members said, no, we are one delegation, an ad hoc committee from Parliament, and we interacted with all the different communities from across the social strata in the areas that we went to. Thank you also for the staff. I repeat it once again, for their dedication, professionalism, and support, especially to the committee secretary and also to the drafter of the report. We will take the matters that was raised by the honorable members forward, and I think we must just now move formally, Chairperson, through you to the formal adoption of this report. If we can get the members to move for record purposes, that the committee, and second, that the report has been formally adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Soma.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I formally move for the adoption of the report with those amendments agreed to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Mashiko. Unmute, Honorable Mashiko.
Chairman, Njamseka Mhlekazi.
Thank you. The report it's adopted as a proper reflection of what we have done since we have started, and it will be ATC, and will definitely take the process to its logical conclusion. We will be failing if we leave out my dear sister Faith from the communications section, and the team that was working with her, from always making sure that it's making the work of this committee to be in the public platform, working with the secretary, Onola, and of course, the content advisor and other researchers, and those people that are from our different offices, Honorable Frolik, that are making sure that our program from time to time, that in terms of the coordination, they make it a point that we are always ready. Colleagues, allow me to officially thank you. Thanks a million times. I officially declare this meeting closed.
Thank you, Chair.
The co-chairs.
Thank you.
Thank you.